Hey guys, Dan Percival here, founder of the sport of Xtreme Ice Skating, and I think I wanted to do something a little different this time. I wanted to show everybody what it is that it takes to create a sport. For once, I'm actually going to take you into my world and show you what it is that I do on a daily basis in terms of creating sport, working on the business itself, and getting it to a point, hopefully in sometime in the near future, where everything takes off and everybody's participating in extreme ice skating in every rink in the world. So here it is. And the reason why I didn't want to sort of give this all away was because, in the beginning at least, is because I sort of felt like a lot of people were competing with me in the beginning, in which they were, and people throughout the way still are. But I'm at the point now where I'm sort of okay, so I can show you my world here. So I started taking notes in the sport in September, and when I first started in May. But unfortunately, the first year or so, I don't have the notes. I couldn't find them. So the earliest point of my notes starts sometime in September of 2006, even though I started in May 2005, the sport. So it says Extreme Ice Skating Travel Log. So this is a log of when I visited London and I met Alex Wilde there and Elliot Hilton. And along the way here, you'll see that I'm just gonna, sometimes I draw my little pictures, you know. It's a notebook, what can I tell you? This is just a drawing I did on an airplane. I was bored. Well, anyway, so you know, any problems that come up, I would write about, or any kind of, or just an analysis in the sport, what needs to be solved, what's going on. So this, for instance, I was having problems at my local rink that I was teaching at. Not the rink I'm at now, another rink. I was having problems with parents, so I had to actually log who said what, you know, what parents were trying to get me kicked out of the rink because they saw that it was like they thought I was in competition with the figure skating school there. So let me just get to, I mean, these are just small things, but see here, exhibition, ice ramp, you know, simple planning, and the whole book basically goes through this, or all my notes, and you'll see that it gets pretty quite involved here, and I'll show you what I mean. So here is just, I drew out a timeline in 2007 of how I thought the sport was going to be. So at the beginning was awareness of the sport in May 2005. And I call first movers people who first see the sport and do something with it. Not just myself, but I mean others. And then here we go, move on to the attachment phase. I mean, there's a lot of business involved. It's psychological continuum model, it's called, is involved in this, so I'm not going to actually explain much of it. I'm just going to go through it quick. Emerging market in 2000 and I don't know, something around 2008. Base market, you know, players come in, small competitors, which I have seen. Tipping point in 2011, I've seen with teams and T-shirts, and you know, also with the emergence with its extreme ice skating's brother sport or sister sport, or however you want to call it, which is freestyle ice skating. So my recollection is, or my analysis is, I think that both extreme ice skating and freestyle ice skating, though they're two different sports, it's going to converge as one market and remain two sports, but one market, if you will. And that's going to be enough push to bring this tipping point, so that, in other words, the tipping point is at the point in which the mainstream society catches on, or maybe not mainstream, but at the point at which it starts feeding in on itself. So and then on and on. So I'm gonna see here loads and diagrams. It just goes on and on and on, trying to solve problems. See, even it says here, problems and issues, purchase or not to purchase, you know, how do you make money on the sport, marketing approaches, applications, you know, rink owners, and then the perception of extreme ice skaters, extreme sport policy. And here's what I was alluding to from last time. See, I wrote this back in October 2009, and I knew this was going to take place, so I'm trying to figure it out. So, you know, you got a market here, freestyle ice skating, which is one sport, or seems to be emerging as a sport. Who knows what's going to happen with that yet? But then here's extreme ice skating, a sport I created, and they kind of conflate or converge. And then you see here XIS freestyle, and this is sort of like a brand name that has popped up recently, because it seems to be that a lot of people don't just want to be connected to the name freestyle, and a lot of people just don't want to be connected to extreme ice skating. They like both, and a lot of this has to do with social groups and perceptions and you know, core values and how people feel about sport and how people connect and communicate with each other. I mean, it gets on. Here's just a lot of times I do symbols and to draw, like, you know, how do you get over like this next wall here. You know, sometimes it's a major problem that's preventing everything. And in this particular instance, I think this one it has to do with skaters are being restricted at ice rinks, so they're not allowed to skate. If they can't skate, then how do you get a sport to take off? Big problem. And here's another, and this is a problem I'm still trying to solve. And many of you know I emailed every single ice rink in England twice, asking them, begging them to get ice rinks, to at least give you guys a session. I didn't get to other countries because other countries I didn't see that there was a whole lot of significant growth. But I'm paying very attention to other countries, and I like how France and Germany are allowing extreme ice skating, and Morocco and a few other countries, in Egypt and maybe Argentina. Alright, so past all this, you know, here I go to customer needs. I'm gonna just go to the way end here. So it goes, and here, this is actually the skate that I ordered from the blade holders of the Xtreme Ice Skate that I ordered from China. You know, and I'm getting to my latest. See here. Okay, so here's the not my latest, but almost my latest. The latest was just a few days ago. Okay, 7/25. It's 7:30 now. So July 30th. So types of thinkers. I started categorizing, looking up on the internet, types of thinkers, like pro-con thinkers, pattern recognition thinkers, social thinkers, artistic. I haven't really gotten to who they are, but I've been talking to different type of people and just trying to figure out what they know and how they think. And this is a good way to figure out your market. You have to do this. You have to know how people think, and you have to more than know how they think. You have to become them. You have to sort of do like you have to almost like daydreaming or thought analysis to be specific, and you have to pretend what it's like living in their world and making decisions. And this is how you get, this is just as one small part of how you get a sport to take off and how you create sport, because you have to know your customers so well. A lot of mistakes I started identifying a lot of mistakes I made in the past, especially with rules and regulations. I mean, freedom is one of the biggest things with extreme sports and lifestyle sports. And the mistake I made was I followed the path of rules and regulations too much because I thought that's what would hold a sport together. It turns out that I shouldn't have done that, and I should have informed people about that rules and regulations were only there for teaching the sport, and that when it comes to what people actually do at the rink, well, then that's their territory. They can do whatever the heck they want. I don't care. So yeah, so that was part of one of the mistakes I made. So yeah, so rules and regulations are tied specifically to teaching the sport, so the sport remains its structure. It doesn't transform into something else. And what you guys do on the ice is your business, and I really don't care, you know, in terms of what you do or how you do it. Sometimes I might leave like a comment on a video saying, well, your knee should be a little higher. Well, that's because I care so much about the sport. I invested so much time to creating the sport. So, you know, sometimes I might leave that comment to make sure this, to make sure, you know, just to make the sport look better. I can't help it, you know. That it's just a way of protecting the sport. It just is what it is. And so anyway. So there's the latest thing I've been working on here. It says social trends, product trends for lifestyle sport participants. So it says, so you know, I do a lot here. Well, here, let me go to the question. How do I identify product trends in lifestyle sport participants? Statistical analysis doesn't seem to work. In a way, I feel like I would have to be physically present in these social groups in order to pick up on clues which may predict an upcoming trend or tipping point. So an upcoming trend could be like a particular social activity or a product, or it could be just the way you know, the way people communicate. And it's hard to say specifically what I mean, other than the fact that if you're selling, I'm trying to think of a company, like for instance, like the Airwalk shoes. There was a way in which the customers valued those Airwalk shoes, and they had to be from local shops. The way they sold themselves out essentially is because they sold it in Walmart, and it took away like the essence of it, the meaning of it, its history, you know, like its uniqueness. It's like buying a skateboard at Walmart. You want to buy from a skate shop, like a local skate shop that some guy worked really hard on, and that he himself or she herself is a skater. But that's just one relationship. The relationships I'm talking about here could be like, well, you know, maybe there's something about a style of ice skates that people wear, or something they're putting on their skates, or a certain type of imagery they're using. Little clues like this that can develop into social trends. You know, a big macro social trend would be that, you know, the Facebook generation and YouTube, and people want instant connection and instant results and things like that. But a smaller trend, I think, would be that people on Facebook, they like to be informed but not too much. They like to show pictures of their skates and their friends and the people they've been with and their experiences. And they might hint to the types of music they may listen to, and a lot of them have to do with inline skating videos and a lot of slalom skating videos. And a lot of things relating to happiness and fun and freedom. I see a lot of outdoors pictures, you know, a lot of nature pictures. So, you know, you try to piece and clue all these things together. So that's if you could pick up on these trends and then try to figure out what to do with that. So here I say customer identify trends, set trends. So not only do you want to identify trends, but you want to set trends, because you set a trend, then you can make the sport move in a certain direction, from participant being aware and just being aware of the sport, and participating it slightly to being allegiant to the sport, and thinking about it all the time, and getting their friends involved and bringing them to the rink. So part of this is change perception, the thinking of the customers, the participants. Participants become entrepreneurs in sales. So a lot of you seen the Xtreme Ice Skaters marketplace, and I know a lot of you probably feel that well, that I shouldn't be making money off of a sport that I create. I haven't quite understood that concept yet, but maybe it's because you're not aware. A lot of people are not aware of what it is, the intricacies of what it is that I'm doing, and how hard it really is to do this. But in that regard, that's the problem, and that has to be solved. So I have to get into the mind of many of you type of people who may think or feel this way, and I have to change these perceptions into the reality, and how I've really gone through the last 6 years of spending $60,000 to $80,000 in this sport and constant thinking every single night. And so part of the way in which I'm relating to my notes here, part of the way in which I'm trying to solve this is that that if you guys are able to experience what I'm experiencing. So in other words, if I can make money, then why can't you? You know, why can't you participate in the experience? Sort of like if you see somebody doing something. For instance, if I was at the beach today, you see a boat out there. You say, well, God, I wish I could be out there riding that speedboat too. Well, why not? Join you in on the fun. So that's the idea of the marketplace, is to give everybody an opportunity, everybody experience, to be an equal partner in the sport. And a while ago I came up with a policy for when I start selling the Xtreme Ice Skate, that anyone who buys just one skate, the second skate that you buy, you get a discount on it, so you could resell it to your friends, or you could resell it to anybody and make a profit. So everybody becomes an entrepreneur, everybody becomes a seller. So the perception isn't that, well, Dan's just selling money, selling products and services in a sport. The reality is that everybody gets to participate and make money in the sport, because as more people get involved in the sport and take control of the sport and help bring the sport forward, the more people take ownership of the sport. And I think it's just making everybody see that the world that I'm living is, I want you to live in it as well. Participate, you know, sort of like being out on that boat and enjoying the water. That's the example I gave before. So, and you know, the last thing I did is, why is sport tied to social structure and its various components? And this is really, you know, much more difficult concept here. This is not as straightforward. I mean, this is something that I've been working on Facebook. I've been posting some things about the difference between freestyle and extreme. I mean, those are very, very simple concepts, the difference between freestyle and extreme. And I haven't actually done graphs, as you've seen on Facebook, that really delved into all this. As you can see from this, this notebook here, that I'm probably never going to get around to it. I should actually probably write a book about, probably more about how to create sport and the psychology of consumers and customers. This is more like a business approach here. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is sort of like the beginning of figuring out what took me years, which I should have known in the beginning, is that sport it's its own organization or business, however you want to define it, and that there's certain constructs, components that make sport. And this is a lot of things that have been occurring in the past. I'm having problems with. For instance, people think that, well, you create movement, or movement's been around for a long time. You know, how can you be the founder of a sport if it's been this movement? Or even if you do create new movement, well, maybe you did, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't do anything with it. So for instance, like, part of a sport is not just the discipline or the style, the psychographics, the demographics. This is all relating to business here. Video, communication, rules, policies, testing, business application, brand, and then there's a whole slew of others that have relation to what sport actually is. And one of them I could think right off the bat that I didn't even include is events, and then products, and then services, and then so on and on and on and on. And customer expectations, and then that's one side in creating sport. Then the other side is the individual, the social structure. So everybody has like a group of core values, that how they see life, how they see the world, and every type of sport attracts a certain type of person. So for instance, a team sport person is not going to be turned on by, say, freestyle ice skating, extreme ice skating, skateboarding, snowboarding. They're gonna stay away. They may try those sports once or twice, just a thing to do, but they're not going to get involved in it. Typically, there's no direct answer for everything. It's not like you could say, well, someone who plays football is never ever gonna do like an individual sport. Some do. Some have not a split personality, but a convergence of things. So this here talks about, so the individual is more of like an interconnected web of social idiosyncrasies, trends, tendencies, perceptions, thoughts, feelings, and types of thinking. Value system, ego identification, and just these two I could tell you right here that the value system and ego identification have to do with, I'm bringing over my other notebook. These are things that I found on the internet. Whole bunch of scholarly works that I found of business applications, business papers. That the ego identification, I'm trying to see if I can find, I probably won't be able to, lifestyle, sports is an agenda. It has to do with the paper that I recently read. Here it is. So the paper is called, and this is an important paper, I'm glad, Relationship Marketing Sports, a Functional Approach. So just these two things here have an entire paper related to it, just those two things, never mind the rest. And that's how involved this gets. So here we go. I'm just going to quickly show you what ego identification is. See here? This goes on to talk about identification. It says of the 3 levels of influence, identification has been studied in the context of sports significantly more than other compliance and internalization. So it talks about internalizing sport. So it has to do with the psychological continuum model. Here, for instance, so it carries on the tendency to Berg, which stands for Berg stands for, what is it? Bask in reflected glory. In other words, to be associated with other famous people or popular people because they're successful, so it makes you feel successful. The tendency to Berg or bask in reflected glory is a self-esteem function, where being associated with someone else's success is very similar to personal success. Identification associations with the successful team or player improves an individual's self-esteem. So it's sort of like why people are such hardcore sports fans, and they love this team even though they're failing sometimes, or sometimes why people love a team because they're doing so well. And there's something I could think of right now that I noticed on Facebook. There's a skater leading a freestyle movement, and I'm staying away from names because I just don't want to put any names in this particular video, especially not without permission. But this particular skater, he had problems with people copying his work, his images, and his background to his logos. They were calling Xtreme Ice Skating freestyle. It was a freestyle ice skating team, but they were calling it Xtreme Ice Skating Team. So all these brand associations, and he was just getting really pissed off, or seemed so pissed off, or maybe he didn't like it anyway. So the overriding point is that is actually a compliment. When someone takes your logos and you might see it as, well, that's copyright. Yeah, it is, but if you understand why they're doing it, and if the reason why they're doing it is because they want to be associated with you, they like you, and they just, anything that you do, they want to do, and they want to become part of your success. That's a measure of success. And the measure of failure, well, that's a different thing, because usually when there's failure, your customers either tell you or they don't. The part when they don't is the hard part, because then you don't know. But a measure of success is you can actually rate it, or qualify it, quantification. You can see it when customers start using your name, or they start using your logos, or they start doing things that you do. They skate like you do. How many emails you get and things like that. So it's good to know why why you would know from a different perspective. How do I say? If you normally think that someone is going against you for whatever reason, but then you go to study out why and what is the nature of that. Well, sometimes it's really just a measure saying that, well, whatever you're doing it right. But now you can take that and guide that in a specific way. Now guide these people who are that may be stealing your work or your images, and you feel like they're copying you. Be positive about it and guide them to do something specific in your direction. And this could be in any sport or any activity, even if you're just a leader of a club at school. It could be any club, whatever it is. And basically, that's what I got up to. That's the last of my notes. The last thing is that I know I mentioned the word tipping point a lot. Well, you can see that here's all my but not all of them, but some of my business books, Catching Air, Business Plans for Dummies, Growing a Business, yada yada yada. And a lot of the important, here are the 2 important books that if you're creating a sport and you want to know how to create a sport, you gotta read. You have to read. It's Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell and Blink. The Walmart Effect, you don't need to really study that. And I've read this once already, but I'm reading over this again. It's called Innovation and Entrepreneurship by Peter F. Drucker. And this is a really awesome book because it talks about how companies, if you fail to change and innovate and adapt to your surroundings, meaning your business surroundings and your competitors and what society is doing, then your business fails. And in this case, the sport fails if you fail to adapt. So anyway, I'm glad I took you guys into my world of creating sport, and I hope some of you can get involved back with me, any of you who are business people. I will speak to you soon, and maybe I'll do more of these videos. Take care.